Well, hello. COVID. The company I work for recently alluded to the fact that because I'm of a certain age, how they can tell, I don't know, if this thing carries on like it is, I may not be able to go into the studio to do my show. They said, but it's okay because we can get a mic over to your place and you can do it like that. You know, somebody back at bass will be playing the music and I said, no, whoa, wait, hang on. Right, just because old school. And, you know, you guys will get this. Operating the faders and the starts and the stops and all of that, that's all part of the gig. That's kind of how we do our thing. Us disc jockeys, right? So they said, well, what are you going to do? And I said, well, okay, here's what I think I can do. Build a studio back at my place. And they laughed and they poked fun and all of that. I said, well, no, because I do have a bit of history in building studios, like this one, when I was about 14. By the way, special prize if you can identify the band in that poster. Ha! And then when I lived in my bedsit back in the 80s, I built this one and it was okay, you know, but it wasn't. So I think I can do this, but I'm tight. And I said, I wonder if I can do it for less than £1,000 or around about £1,000. But of course, it's got to be kind of professional-ish. It's got to have proper kit. It's got to sound right. It's got to be, you know, user-friendly. It's got to do all that stuff. And it's got to basically replicate this, which is what I use on a daily basis at work. So the challenge is build a professional-ish studio. I'm going to be using these things quite a lot, I think, in this video because quotes. For around about £1,000, but it's got to be, you know, the business. It's got to work. It's got to do everything right, and it's got to be the case that listeners don't know I'm at home when I do it. So that's the challenge. So because I'm freelance, and if I don't go to work, I don't get paid. So, you know, this is an investment, which is how I sold it to the wife. And this, you know, secures my income and allows me to do the show properly, but without risking COVID. So win-win-win. So a proper professional-ish radio studio for about £1,000. Can it be done? Let us find out. Now, the first thing we're going to need is a proper radio desk, and that involves a lot of searching and a lot of hunting down, because these things are available, but they're few and far between. It's not the sort of thing that, you know, is mass market, is it, a radio desk? And whilst I'm old school and analog, I feel it's time I moved into the digital realm, because there's so much more. I know what you're saying. Oh, analog sounds better and warmer and all that. Yeah, but there's so much more you can do with a digital signal, right? And I'm no Trevor Horn, I'm no Joe Meek, who were analog and eventually digital with Trevor Horn. But I need to move into the digital realm, because that gives me a better option of desk and a better control over signals and feeds and all of that. So digital we're going to go. And this has just been sent to me by a mate. Look at this. This is an auction that's being held by BBC Wales, and rather than put their stuff in a van and drive it up the road a mile, they're selling everything and then buying everything new for their new building. Great, that means there's some bargains to be had, one assumes. So I found within this auction a Soundcraft RM1D, which is, I think, the very first digital desk that Soundcraft produced. But it would be just perfect. The 12-channel version is here on this auction. So it's all about whether or not I can get a bargain and build the whole studio around the RM1D concept, which is going to involve a lot of AES and digital inputs and all of that. We'll worry about that when it happens. Let's see if I can grab a bargain out of the £1,000 budget with the RM1DS in an auction in Wales. I got it! I got it! £350. When these things were new, they were multiple thousands of pounds. All right, okay, and this thing hasn't been new for a while, I get that, but 350 quid for a broadcast desk, a mixer of the quality of the Soundcraft RM1. Just gotta go to drive to Wales to collect it now, which is, hey Google, how far away is Cardiff?
You are 242 miles away from Cardiff by car.
Well, it's going to be a day out, isn't it?
Hi, Jim.
What? What? I'm home, and I've brought you a Prezi. So it came with a power supply, but it didn't have the all-important cable. I've been in touch with the people, they say, oh, we don't know where the cable went. So I found out the name of the plug, and they are these HRS plugs. Only problem being is I ordered the wrong size. With some very expensive cable and the right size plugs, we now have our umbilical. Point being is my soldering ability up to a 25 core umbilical cable like that? Well, there's only one way to find out, right? Here we go. Oh. Oh. What's that saying? Nothing. That's not a good sign. Come on. Oh, PPMC. Oh, the timing thing has come on. Soundcraft, please wait while the desk initializes. Oh, we're waiting, Soundcraft. We are waiting like we've never waited before. Are you going to come into life? Oh, yes! Look at that. Look at that. You remember how I said I wanted to go digital with this because it's a digital desk. As a result of that, everything has to be, you have to think in digital terms, AES and stuff like that. It's not your traditional XLR. Well, they are XLR inputs, but they're all digital. So the thing to lay my hands on now is a digital sound card, multi-channel digital sound card. This is going to be the device that the software, whichever software we use, is going to be playing music out to the desk. It has to be capable of digital output, multi-channel, at least 4, right? 2 players, 1 carts, pre-fade, all of that. It has to be at least 4. And I've come across this old delightful piece of kit. This is the Lynx AES16. 8 stereo digital channels. But look at the damn price of it. But then when you search a bit further, you'll find that the slightly older one, the PCI one, can be had for a bit of a bargain, right? About £100. So this is brilliant. So it's in America, that's fine. They still have some kind of freight service going on there. So let's get that ordered and then find out what we're going to need to do all the connecting. I was all up for building the cables that connect the AES16 sound card to the desk. But seriously, that's going to be a load of faff, and they must exist, right? They must exist. So does anybody make a cable harness for the AES16 digital sound card? And it turns out that one company still does. Bless them. And they're based in Italy. No big deal. But they're like 50 odd quid each. Plus shipping. And you need 2 because it's got 2 D sub outputs. Or D type outputs. So you need to. So I didn't really want to have to spend over 120 quid on cables. But I think with the importance of these cables and how reliable and beautifully soldered they need to be, I'm going to have to dip in on this one. So these 2 cable sets I'm going to order from Italy now, and then we'll all wait with bated breath to see how long they take to get here. Fingers crossed it won't be too long. That's not fingers, that's quotes. Let me try that again. So it's a big moment then, after being up most of the night trying to sort out a problem with the sound card, the AES-16. All it did was go and I'm thinking, well, turns out it was a set of jumpers in the sound card, which is in that PC down there. But we've moved the jumpers, we've VNC'd into it, we've got our software loaded, and stand by. Life. Is it that fader? Yes, that fader. There we go, look at that. Life! Can't hear anything because there's no monitoring plugged in and stuff like that. But it all works. Oh joy. Now on the side of my house I've got this unit thing. It's an old caravan which has been gutted and stripped out, and I do all kind of weird and wacky wonderful stuff in here. You know, I build stuff in that corner and I store stuff in that corner and I 3D print over there. But I really haven't used this room for a number of years. And it used to be an old commercial production facility. As you can see, it's still got clocks and it's even got an on-air light, look, a mic on light. And I think, you know, with the fact that it's got some relatively decent sound deadening, i.e. carpets on the wall, this could be the ideal room. As you can tell, my history kind of relates to kit like this. A Soundtek Series A, which in its day was the bomb. Very analog, very old now, and those faders are very crackly, so we're going to count that out. But there must be some other stuff in here we can make use of. Oh yes. Oh, there's some stuff there, definitely. As for the rest of it, well, I don't know. We'll cobble all this together and give it, you know, a couple of weeks or months or whatever. This could be our studio. So this is where the whole thing is gonna go. I'm at that stage now where I wish I hadn't have started this, because, you know, it's a lot of work, isn't it? And I'm old. But anyway, it should be a bit of fun. And this is going to be our new studio. So the early days of configuration and stripping out and finding... See, this has been a commercial production studio for a number of years, and so here we are putting the monitors in, and I also wanted 2 monitors up on the wall that could do other various things, as well as the utility monitors, as it were, that are right in front of you. So here we are underneath the desk, wiring through the night with the dog keeping me company. VGA cables, of which most didn't fit, by the way. Had to buy a few more of those because they weren't long enough. It's always nice when a monitor comes on, isn't it? When you know you've finally got something fixed. And then the second monitor goes on, which didn't work, by the way. That second touchscreen monitor had to go back. Had to get another one of those. So here we go with, you know, the most weakest walls ever, because it's a outside unit, so they're made of hardboard or something. So you have to use like butterfly clips and stuff like that. But they work, and the brackets are good. And those external monitors went up. Pretty cheap they were, 20 quid from eBay for the pair of them. Then I thought, what I'll do, I don't like the cables dangling down, so I'll cut a hole in the, in the carpet, which is technically the wallpaper, and feed the wire down that hole, which actually turned out really well, because those wires are now completely hidden, as indeed are all the cables that I've used. Those 2 stands, by the way, for the monitors, again, another bargain. They were, I don't know, 15 quid each, I think, from Amazon. So pretty pleased with those. So we're looking pretty good at this stage. We've got the computers in place, we've got the monitors in place, we've even got the CCTV in place, and we're having a good old go on the vape. I'll do that again in a minute, I think. And things are progressing, ready for the desk to be installed. And here we have a little tea break while I prepare to install the desk. Oh, USB for the touchscreen monitors. That's how they work. And a little bit of Facebooking while we're about it. I had to go and buy a new keyboard because I couldn't find one that worked at all. So here we are trying to set out one of the screens, which didn't have the proper resolution and all that faffing about that you always have to do with computers. So here we go now, beginning to lay the cables, as it were. And a lot of cables, a lot of connections to this desk are D-sub in various shapes and sizes. So you have to make those all up. There's an awful lot of soldering that goes on. So there's the D-subs ready to connect. Those are the digital leads, of which there are 8 for the 8-channel digital sound card. Power supply for the desk. Very important. But would it work? You betcha! It powered up. Look at that. Happy with that. So we're getting things sorted out here, connecting things up, and it occurred to me that while I'm doing this, it's too high. It just felt wrong when you're using it. It didn't look right. I thought, this is going to have to be sunk into the desk. So whilst I'm messing around here, configuring everything, in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, this is all going to have to come to bits at some point. Because this is too high. It doesn't feel right and look right. And I'm not going to be happy with it unless I do this properly. But being a bloke, I carried on nonetheless, configuring, connecting, wiring. And all it took was for the wife to say, "Is that too high?" I thought, if she's noticed it, then we're going to have to sort it out. Configuring the rack over on the right there, that's where the processing and mic processor also lives, so that all had to be reconfigured. And we've got the mic light working, and the mic processor, which is digital, by the way, that comes into the desk through a digital output. So pleased with that, and there's no delay on it, there's no latency, which is fantastic. So what have we done? Gone for a tea break here? I think we've gone for a tea break. Yeah, it's got to that stage where you sort of just bend over and have a look around. So it's another day because I've changed my clothes, and out comes everything. I've made the decision. That desk has to be sunk into the worktop. So everything disconnected, everything pulled out, all the leads disconnected, thinking it worked the first time. I bet it doesn't the second time. Great. These are legs that I bought really cheap. They're on Amazon, and they really lend huge support to a worktop that you're going to basically be cutting most out of. So we've got the polythene up for the sawdust. We're measuring. We're arguing about, how can you get a T-square on a beveled edge? The usual sort of conversations you have with your wife. Then out comes the saw. There's the circular saw. No messing about. Zip, zip, zip. Bang. Out comes the middle. And in goes the desk. And it fitted first time, which is great. A little bit of hoovering to be done, of course, as always. And a securing strip along the back there, because that back area was going to be pretty weak unless I secured that. So there's the poles, the legs, the ports being secured, so it's all pretty solid. And rewiring all over again. All the cables we put in first time round getting put in the second time round. Computers coming to life, which is again always a treat. But they're always hard to work on, aren't they? If they're going to be put away, hidden somewhere, they're always going to be difficult to work on. And there's always one cable that's not quite long enough. And there was quite a few cables that weren't quite long enough, in fairness. All had to be either made or purchased. Here comes the replacement monitor. This one actually worked, which was nice. Desk goes in, desk comes on. All relevant cables plugged in, and the PPMs are moving. Always a good sign. It means we've got some signal going in, and things are beginning to happen. That's one of the breakout boxes from the analog sound card. There is also, I built a breakout box for the desk external ins and auxiliary outs. Jack plug, because there's It's only so much fun you can have with XLRs, isn't there? And we're just about on the way here, and I think there were one or two minor problems. There was clicks and pops on the audio, and that turned out to be a bad network driver on that particular computer. Of all the things, right? You're thinking digital audio should be fantastic. It wasn't. It sounded rubbish, and it was a bad driver, a network card driver. So when that got replaced, that was a moment of huge relief. That's the TBU, by the way, big old thing, which I've borrowed from work. It's about 30 years old, but it works. So that's the TBU about to be installed, telephone line. I'm actually changing a plug there. Who does that? Just to get a wire through a hole. Take the plug off. The configuration of the little rack on the side there with all the various bits and pieces that go in there. Sit back and admire your work just for a few moments, as blokes do. That's the monitoring amplifier. Big old thing that is, weighs a ton. And that's a fuse. I blew a fuse. The lamp, inspection lamp, broke and went bang in my face and took the trip out for the whole thing, which meant, as I mentioned earlier, or I'm about to mention, that the desk forgot all its settings, and that's a key thing to remember on those desks. On these desks, digital desks need to have their configurations saved, otherwise they will forget them. So that is the build of that studio. It took about 3 weeks, but did it work? It is time for the big reveal. Are you ready? Whoa! There she is! Look at that! And here it is, completed, finished, and working. It's exciting. Let me take you through this whole thing then. So we've got the 2 screens, left and right here for the computer number 1, which is the playout and the digital interfaces and stuff, and this piece of software which I wrote myself, which is our bespoke playout system. Obviously mic, and then another couple of monitors related to another PC, recording editing facility, social media over here, that kind of thing, and the desk itself in all its glory, with the 4 digital channels and a number of analog channels coming into it. Over to the right here we've got some processing going on, so we've got a mic processor there, we've got some monitoring processing, because you want it to sound like you're on FM, don't you? When you're on air, that's the bottom line of it. You want it to sound proper. So there's some monitoring processing going on there as well, and you know, a little bit of a flashy meter just to make sure you're not upsetting somebody at the other end. And if you're thinking, well, he probably bodged all the wires underneath and everything, look at that, it's quite neat. Oh, you can't see it under there? Well, that's a shame, because I 3D printed some brackets for all the wiring to make like a harness, a wiring harness. So as you can see there, it's all pretty neat under there. We've got a little playout device here as well, which I built. Let me show you this. Basically it's a numeric keypad, and I've wired it in such a way that it's captured exclusively by the playout, which means that, you know, even if the window doesn't have focus, it's still going to play. And I've also put a couple of LEDs in the bodged play button there, so that the so it can give you a visual representation. So you hit play and it'll go red while it's loading the next thing, and done deal, goes green when it's ready to play the next thing. So that's all good. A very sneaky little TBU there. So you've got the turn that up for you. There you go. There's proof that the landline is working. So we've got TBU there, we've got a phone system as well, which is digital and online, and that operates via one of the PCs. CCTV up there, that's not really relevant, but this is more software that I've written. This is a news feed thing which continually updates with various local and national stories that are coming through, and it flashes red and things like that. That's all pretty sexy, that, so I'll stay on top of things. And of course the radio controlled clock and the mic light.
which is not quite as bright as I'd like, but it's LEDs, and those things can be, you know, a little bit trying at times. I've even built a little newsreader position, or a second, or a guest position, headphones and mic input there. So, you know, somebody could come and join me and have a chat with me if you didn't want to catch COVID or something. So there's that. So that basically, monitoring, by the way, is this big amp here, driving those little speakers up there, the little Spenders, which actually do sound great even though they're 20 years old. And that is the studio that will be going on air pretty shortly. We've even got courtesy of a bodged inline dimmer here. We can even bring the lights way down low. So when you're doing a late show, look how cool that is. You want to get some atmosphere going? Look at that. All right, let me show you the desk fundamentally. The big lesson with the digital desks is you've got pretty little by way of configuration on the channels themselves, right? Because all the configuration is done via this parameter knob, basically. So for every channel you want to change, and this takes a getting used to, you have to press edit. And once you've pressed edit, you're into the editing screen of that particular channel, and you can do all the stuff. The desk itself has got a load of configuration as well, and sometimes you can forget what you're doing with that. Also, another major thing is always save where you are on the desk. Whatever you've got it configured for, save it, because if there's a power cut, it will forget it when it comes back, and that is something I'm not really used to as an analog guy. This is brilliant, by the way. I'll just show you this. Bluetooth, keyboard and mouse. So if you want it to be a mouse, you just do that in the traditional way, and you can see it's doing its thing. If you want it to be a keyboard, you press that. Look at that! And it's brilliant, and it's small, and you can type your little messages to people and stuff like that. So that's a right little bargain. And also for the other computer, Bluetooth keyboard, magnet strip on the back, it fits perfectly just there, and it stays there. Bluetooth mouse as well, plus the greatest headphones ever made, which perform the final stage of the monitoring. So that is our new studio, and I'm pretty pleased with that, it has to be said. You might have questions, and by all means let me know in the comments if you have, and I'll happily answer, because obviously I can't tell you, you know, in a short video everything that went on. You can have a little look down the back there if you like. It is just a bunch of inputs and outputs. Oh, these two screens are touchscreen as well, by the way. So if you've got this facility of the number pad here, but everything on there is touchscreen. Another nice little touch, and I've built this myself as well. This particular playout systems have never been very good at pre-fade. They've had to use another channel to do it, or it's never worked properly. What I've built is that if you want to pre-fade something with this, you can now hit the pre-fade, relay, and it's straight into your headphones. Now you probably can't hear that. Maybe you can. There you go. So, I'll move the mic. So the pre-fades are operating a relay and straight into your headphones. Simple as that. Proud of that one. That's a good one. And we're monitoring via that system there. So if you have a listen to what we're actually sounding like the time it gets into your headphones, you will hear what I hope to be a pretty decent sound. Sounds like a proper one, doesn't it? So that is our studio. And how much did it cost all together? Well, here comes the big final figure.